Welcome to the Foothills, a Colorado lifestyle and real estate podcast featuring mountain home real estate broker Robert Martin, who has over 25 years of experience assisting clients reach their goals and move forward. Tune in each week for a dynamic conversation with experts, Colorado adventurers, and residents that explores the ins, outs, and specific nuances of buying the perfect mountain home or selling your dream home in Evergreen, Conifer, Bailey, and surrounding areas to catch a glimpse into the Colorado lifestyle that's a part of you.
Thanks for joining us today. We have a wonderful guest today. Emily Bossert has joined us on the podcast. Emily, how are you today? And thanks for joining us.
Good morning, Robert. I am incredibly excited to be here, doing well rested after a long weekend, and just excited to be here on this lovely day.
Well, thanks for joining us. Tell me about yourself and your background, and how did you get into the real estate space?
Sure. So back in 2010, I was living in Illinois and was going through a divorce. And my main yoga teacher, Richard Freeman at the time, Richard Freeman and Mary Taylor were based out of Boulder, Colorado, the yoga workshop. I started traveling out to Boulder to practice yoga. And slowly but surely realized that my next step in terms of moving through my divorce, my separation, and then my divorce, I wanted to change. And my goal at that time ultimately was to teach yoga more frequently and lead retreats. So that's actually what brought me to Boulder. Little did I know that I was going to land with one of the top producing real estate teams in Boulder. And that in turn, at the same time as practicing yoga with Richard Freeman and Mary Taylor, started my path in real estate. So it was a wonderful path. And what I had asked for when I moved to Boulder was, I said, I want to work for a successful woman. And that was my path. I knew that I wanted to be that successful woman as well. So I luckily fell into the right hands at that time.
Yeah, the broker that you worked with, extremely successful. And I'm sure getting through your divorce and starting with your yoga and meditation, that was quite healing and very helpful.
It was. I found yoga back in 2001. I was living in North Carolina and I had just gotten married, in fact, and I found Ashtanga yoga at that time. So it was definitely already yoga and meditation were part of my life. But when I moved to Boulder, I literally knew two people here. And it was something that truly helped me heal and grow into my next level of being in Boulder.
And how does, so you've been doing this, Emily, 15, 20 years, or how long have you been practicing your meditation and yoga and also coaching real estate brokers?
Sure. So I'll start with how long I've been doing yoga and meditation. I'm going to age myself here. I was 22, 23 at the time. It was 2001. I'm 46.
You look like it.
Yes. So I started, and it literally started by happenstance. My husband at the time and I had just moved to North Carolina, and I decided to get into some sort of physical fitness. So I went to a gym and ended up taking a yoga class. It was my first yoga class ever. And I was like, where has this been all of my life? How am I now just finding it? And I would say I became obsessed in a good way. It changed my life. It changed not only myself mentally and physically, emotionally. It allowed me to grow into who I am today. So I found it at a young age. I started teaching in 2006 and also practicing meditation. So the journey has been, I'd say, over a span of, it's been 20 years now. And it's my saving grace. Robert, I'll tell you, my dear friends and my loved ones will tell me, when they notice that I'm not practicing yoga or practicing meditation, it's obvious. Like there's a definite difference in the way I respond and react to the world.
So what would a day look like for you, Emily? I mean,
Yep.
just a quick snippet of maybe your morning, or how does that start for you?
Sure. So I wake up at 5 a.m. and my day looks different depending on the day of the week. And Robert, you know this because you've been in the 6 a.m.ers, but Compass Real Estate has what's called the 6 a.m.ers, which is a motivational gathering. And we do interviews 2 mornings a week. So on Tuesdays and Thursdays, my morning looks different than Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. But ultimately, big picture, what I try to do is first things first, I am not going to lie, I need my coffee. I have my coffee, and that's from 5 to 5:30. I feed my lovely cats. And then I read something of value to me, whatever book that is that I'm reading. And typically whatever book I'm reading at the time is aligned with what skill set I'm learning at the time as well. So for instance, right now, we are getting ready for the 6 a.m.ers, we're getting ready to read the book, The Soul of Money. We're going to dedicate the month of June to finances and really honing our finances. And I think as realtors right now, that's incredibly important because we're looking at a potential recession. We're looking at a very interesting real estate market. So we really need to be cognizant of what we're doing and where we're placing and putting our money and our relationship to money.
Yeah, great point there.
Yeah.
It is changing, and it's always changing. It's not static. And to adjust and, to mentally be, I don't want to say prepared, but, have your soul kind of in congruency with what's going on certainly is helpful.
That's
So,
absolutely right. So I'll usually do that. And then I am very lucky. I'm here in Boulder, Colorado, and I live right across the street from the CU University campus. So every morning I take a walk around campus when all the kids are asleep. And it's just the most beautiful campus. So I usually get some form of exercise in. I do my meditation. I'll practice a little bit of yoga in the morning, but usually my main yoga practice is at night before I fall asleep. So I'm very disciplined. My first few hours of my world are sacred to me, and it's what sets me up for my day. It allows me to show up at work at 8 o'clock and be there Boulder has right now, Compass in Boulder has 115 agents. So I need to be ready for that many agents.
A lot of folks to interact with, no doubt.
Yes.
And how does practicing yoga and meditation help you when you coach others, when you interact with others?
Mm-hmm.
I know you mentioned that it's a great way to start your day. Friends and family can recognize how your day started, whether you've, in the place you want to be, so to speak.
It affects my interaction with agents on so many levels, Robert, and that's a great question. I would say first and foremost, it allows me to be present with the agent in terms of what's going on in their world. I'm a sales manager at Compass, so the questions that come into me are a lot of times legal questions, managing broker questions, working with a client that the agent might be having difficulty with and needing some help navigating what the best solution is. So if I can show up present and focused on the issue at hand or what needs to be solved, then I can be of service in that way. And the agent and I can collaboratively figure out what the best response is. Without practicing yoga in the morning and my centering routine, I think I would be more focused on myself. I would probably be more scattered. I would also probably feel the intense thought of, oh my gosh, there's so many agents to serve. How am I going to do all of this? But what yoga does, and also meditation, is it allows you to be present so that you can actually do the things you need to do in a mindful way, all the while actually also enjoying the journey. Imagine that.
For sure. Yeah, it might seem a bit overwhelming if you didn't have peace of mind, or the peace that you have in your heart when you start your day, and visiting with the brokers. And you want them to be productive, but you also want them to be at peace and in the moment. So to be able to communicate with them like you're describing is quite wonderful. To have a good peace of mind, be in the moment, but also be productive and enjoy your life. You don't have to go crawl in a cave and meditate 24/7. You can have both, right?
Man, I
So,
love that you said that, because to me, in terms of coaching, when I coach realtors, it's not, success comes in many different forms. It's not just, what is my GCI? What is my average sales price? How many listings did I get? How many closings did I have? Those things are great. And of course, they're integral. They're our livelihood as realtors. However, success comes in so many different forms. Robert, for you, success might look like a specific amount of deals a year, and also being able to do this podcast, be able to stay connected with your family, travel a certain amount of days a year. So in order to be present for these agents, I have to be able to really tune in to what success means to them.
and without giving away everything, how do you help others become wildly successful by living in their truth?
Oh, I love that question. It's what I like to do is, a lot of it is catered to each agent and what their needs are, because as we know, no two single humans are the same. There's a lot of through lines for agents in terms of how to help them attain that wild success and be that extraordinary human being. But really what it boils down to is, first of all, getting to know the agent, having the agent feel comfortable enough with me to actually share their dreams, their fears, so that we can actually go into those places. And it looks different. There are agents that need tough love. And then there are agents that need that soft nudging. It really is kind of a dance of figuring out who they are and what they need in the moment. Does that make sense?
It does, yeah.
Yeah.
Everyone's different. And I'm sure the groundedness comes from, your meditation and the yoga, and just being present in the moment. Your mind's not wandering. You're thinking about, okay, what am I going to do for lunch, or all this other stuff. So you're really focused. And I think that's one thing that people could do, with the process. Would you say that's one of the main things you get from meditation, or how it helps you connect with other people?
Truly. Meditation for me is a way that I can stay open to understand what other people's big picture looks like. If I am in a state where I've already given myself the space and the time in the morning, and honestly, throughout the day, I take breaks to reset as well. What happens is I'm giving to myself. I know what I need. And what happens in that meditation space is that I then can come with a blank slate to see big picture, what it is that an agent actually needs in that moment. A lot of times agents don't actually know in that moment, because life as a realtor is crazy busy. We all know that. There's chaos, there's fear. Where's my next deal going to come from? Whatever it is. So that's why it's so important, I would say, as a tool for agents as well, is because it allows us as agents to calm down, to breathe, to get back into focus and understand what actually is important, opposed to all of those shiny objects that we chase all day long, which, quite frankly, if we're chasing those tiny objects all day long, we're just digging these tiny little wells, and we're not actually digging deep into our success.
Wow. Whether you're a real estate broker or anybody, obviously that's a wonderful mantra to live your life. And, because life goes so fast and we get so busy. And, one of the things I would hate to have as a parent or just as a friend is to say, gosh, 20 years down the road, Dad, we did all this stuff, but you're always busy, you're doing this. And, sometimes we'd visit and you weren't really connected. So, it's just a wonderful way to reconnect with everybody, as each day. So Are there any specific books, Emily, that you say are your favorite and why?
Oh my gosh, Robert, I have so many favorites, and I'm the person who every month I'm like, oh, this is now my favorite.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you my top favorites.
Okay.
The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle. That was one of the first spiritual books that really caught me and allowed me to understand that there's something more at a young age. The second one is The Journey. Oh my gosh, I can't remember the name of the book. It's Michael Singer. The Journey of Souls. I don't think I have the right name there, but
We could
Michael Singer.
we could Google Mr.
We'll
Singer.
Google
Yes.
it.
Yes.
It's another one of those game changers that literally takes your life and spins it upside down and allows you to come out with a new perspective. One of the books that I just read that I would highly suggest to people is 4,000 Weeks. And this book is ultimately about, let's say, if we're all lucky enough, we're going to live to be 80. That's 4,000 weeks. This book is essentially about how time is limited, and we have all these things we want to say yes to, and we have these things that we say yes to that we shouldn't be saying yes to as well. How do we really get clear on those top 5 things that are actually the big yeses and focus there? It's an incredible book. And then an evergreen book that I read every single year in December or January is The Compound Effect by Darren Hardy.
Wow, all great books. Make notes of those for sure.
Yes.
Is there anything, Emily, that, let's say when you have an appointment with a broker or client or friend, that you say to yourself to kind of, so you can connect deeply with everyone in the conversation, to kind of ground yourself? Or is there anything that you kind of get you to that place where you want to be in the now?
I do. And I really appreciate you asking this. I actually shared this at Compass Retreat in Austin last year. I taught a class in terms of how to avoid burnout in your career. And one of the things I shared was a practice that I do before I meet with agents, friends, or whatnot, to kind of clear the air so that I can be present and actually hear what needs to be done and stay focused. So the practice doesn't take long at all, but it's a practice where it's a meditation practice where you sit and you breathe and you focus on yourself, and then you do a clearing, and then you actually look at the situation, you visualize the situation you're about to walk into. And you think about what are the results that you would like to see for yourself and for that other person, or if it's a presentation for the group. So you actually visualize it before it happens and make sure that your intentions are in line with you going into that meeting. So by the time you come out of this practice, if you have a minute or you have 15 minutes to do this, whatever works best for you, but you have an idea of who you're going to meet with and what output you would like to see. Also, what could go wrong and what could go right in that meeting. I think it's a great practice. Think about going on a listing appointment. If you were to set your intention before going on a listing appointment and really getting into that state where you're focused on your intention, who the other people are that you're going to be meeting with, what their objectives are, and then going into it with that clear and present desire to get their home listed, negotiated, and sold for the best price possible.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's really taking it a step further. You're looking into, what's best for everybody, what's a collaborative result.
Yes.
You're in the picture, but you're also, there's outcomes, there's other people. That's wonderful. That's great. Certainly keep that in mind moving forward. So living in Boulder, Emily, living in nature, what activities do you enjoy the most living in Colorado? The podcast is a bit of a Colorado lifestyle podcast as well. And I always like to ask what activities people like to participate in, because there's so much to do in Colorado.
I love that. When I first moved to Colorado in 2010, I was overwhelmed by opportunities. for activities. Like there's never a moment where there's not something you can do. And as you know, Robert, it's sunny here all the time. So if you're not doing something, you almost feel guilty for not
True.
doing something. So for me, I love walking in nature here in Boulder. I can't get enough of it. I will do minimum 10,000 steps a day. And whether it's hiking or just walking around campus, being outdoors, is my truly enjoyable place. And what I love to do is I put in a podcast, like same thing. What is it? What skill sets are there that I am attempting to learn for my own personal growth at the time? That's the podcast I put in. And then I take a walk or I take a jog. So for me, that's number one biggest activity. And then of course, practicing yoga. That's my mainstay for sure.
And how often do you do that every day? And how long do you do a yoga set?
I would say in my 20s and 30s, I was practicing Ashtanga yoga. So that's a 6-day-a-week practice every day, but Saturday essentially, and moon days. It's not me anymore. I've taken a much more, I would say, feminine path with yoga, and it's not as rigid. It's not 6 days a week. Maybe it's 6 days a week some weeks. Maybe it's 4 days a week, other weeks. Maybe it's a 30-minute practice. It's not as rigid anymore. So I would love to say that I get in at least 10 minutes minimum almost every day, and a good solid practice at least 5 days a week, because that's what feels good to me.
Yeah, that's great. You're so right. The weather is so nice here. And whether you're practicing yoga outside or hiking or mountain biking or whatever it is you like to do, I like to hike as well. So
Yes.
That's absolutely wonderful.
It's an interesting Boulder, and I'm sure you see this, Robert, in Evergreen as well. There are so many physically fit, incredibly active people. When I moved from Illinois, I felt like I was not that I feel like I'm better than anyone, but I felt like it was an exception to work out and to practice as much as I did. Here, it's a whole different level.
Yes, for sure. And today, as we're recording this podcast, the Boulder is being run.
That's right.
So, seeing as how you are the managing broker of the Boulder office of Compass, if I was buying a home in the Foothills, what suggestions or advice might you have for me as far as what to look for, those sorts of things?
Sure. It would depend, first of all, on if you were a first-time home buyer or if you were a seasoned buyer. But I would say ultimately some things to really think about and consider here is, first of all, figure out where it is that you want to live. Do you want to live either in Boulder, one of the lovely towns outside of Boulder, or do you want to be in the Foothills? Where specifically would you want to be? And then in terms of this market, we're in this really interesting place in the market where we're still in a seller's market, but it's not as extreme. So I think one of the most important things with working with buyers as an agent is to make sure that you are having that first consult with your buyers where you're laying out the land, you're being real with them, you're educating them, listen, this is what the market looks like. This is where things are selling right now. If you're interested in a property, we're probably going to have to move fast. So I want you to be ready, really preparing. I think one of the most important keys to being a really great buyer's agent in this market in general is to make sure you never skip the buyer's consults. You have it, you sit down with them for a minimum of 30 minutes. And I mean that even if the buyer is a friend of yours or somebody you've done business with before, making sure you're going through those steps of the process, getting them familiar with, okay, when we find the house, this is the paperwork we're going to need to do. And we need to make sure that we're all aligned in the process. So the re-education piece as well. So I would say most importantly, in terms of wherever you're doing real estate, Boulder included, make sure that you're having those conversations to educate your clients so they're not living in fantasy land. They need to understand reality.
Yeah, that's so true. I think sometimes that buyer consult gets missed. And, when you work with buyers too, then there's their priority list, and that changes, that evolves as you get to see more homes. And gosh, you're so right, Emily, this market is is changing. It's a very, very strong market, but it is changing in front of us. And we want to, as professional brokers, we want to stay in tune with that. And so we can advise sellers and buyers kind of where it's at. So,
and Robert, here's another thing I want to say in terms of being a buyer's agent. When you're having those buyer consults, that's what's setting you up for success in terms of getting more referrals as well, because your buyers are going to be so impressed with the time you took in advance. That's going to alleviate them either A, losing out on offers, not understanding what the actual real estate market looks like. So think of it in terms of, like, to me, it's a non-negotiable. Whoever you are meeting with, do a buyer consult.
yeah, for sure. We all do with sellers, I think. But yeah, that's a wonderful point. And, it's especially in this market and any market. So
Exactly.
well, great information, Emily. I really appreciate your time. It's been really heartfelt, and I think you shared a lot of really great information for everybody to take to heart. Is there anything that we didn't talk about that maybe you'd like to add?
Oh, I love that last question. I would say, and I know that a lot of realtors who are coming to your podcast here, I would say, really, in this time in real estate, think about your offerings. Think about what's setting you apart. Think about how you're being true and genuine to yourself in terms of being a realtor out there. And also, do not lose sight of what it means to be a real estate agent and successful to you. I cannot say it enough, as realtors, comparison is the thief of all joy. So focus in on what is important to you in terms of building your career, in terms of your success, and follow that path. Don't worry what other people are doing. It's not your path.
Right. Focus on what works for you, and don't worry about the others. That's a good way to go. So, and that's true for anybody, really.
It's true for anybody. Yes.
There are a lot of folks that listen to the podcast are people considering purchasing real estate in the foothills. Yeah. So, the information you shared today is very helpful for everybody. So I'm really grateful. Thank you.
Thank you.
And where can people go if they wanted to learn a little bit more about you?
Sure. You can find me on I am Emily Bossert on Instagram. My email address is emily.bossert, Bossert @compass.com. Exciting news. I am getting ready to move into some co-coaching with another incredible coach. And we're creating a program, an accelerator called How to Move from Ordinary to Extraordinary. So if you're interested in that as well, it's going to be a really exciting program.
Wow, that sounds great. Wonderful information, and best wishes to you there.
Thank you so much.
Thanks so much, Emily. Have a great day.
Robert, what a pleasure. You too. Take care.
Yeah, thank you. To the Foothills, a Colorado lifestyle and real estate podcast. On the podcast, I interview real estate experts, Colorado adventurers, and residents who enjoy the serenity and lifestyle of living in our mountain communities. Tune in each week for a conversation that explores the ins and outs of buying the perfect mountain home or selling your dream home, and catch a glimpse into the Colorado lifestyle that's a part of you.